When the Titanic sank on April 15, 1912, the headlines screamed tragedy. 1,500 lives lost. The unsinkable ship destroyed on its first voyage. But behind the grief, something else was happening. Something that rarely makes it into the history books. The Titanic disaster was also a business event. Money shifted hands. Fortunes were made and lost. Companies maneuvered to profit from one of the most famous catastrophes in modern history. The question we rarely ask is simple. Who actually benefited? Because where there is loss on a massive scale, there is almost always profit hidden in the shadows. To unswear that, we need to step into the financial world of the early 20th century. The Titanic was operated by the White Star Line, but they were part of a giant shipping trust called IMM, backed by none other than J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker in America. The sinking was a financial crisis for IMM. Their stock plunged. Lawsuits loomed. But here's the twist. IMM was already struggling before the disaster. The company was heavily in debt. The Titanic catastrophe, ironically, gave Morgan cover to renegotiate, restructure, and reorganize his entire shipping empire. And what about the insurance companies? The Titanic was insured for about $120 million in today's money. Lloyd's of London and other firms paid out the claims. For some smaller insurers, it was devastating. But for the big players like Lloyd's, it was a strategic move. The disaster wiped out their weaker competitors, leaving them with a bigger slice of the market. Sometimes, paying out a claim is the cost of consolidating power. Meanwhile, the media world saw a boom. Newspapers like the New York Times sold out issue after issue, gaining prestige and subscribers. The Titanic story sold more papers than any event in years. Publishers profited directly from the disaster, proving how tragedy could drive media empires forward. But the profits didn't stop there. The disaster sparked an explosion in books, lectures, and films. Wheaton Mont's Memoirs by Survivors were on sale. Vaudeville theaters staged dramatizations of the sinking. Each retelling turned the tragedy into a commercial product, feeding public fascination and private profit. The disaster became an industry in itself, long before James Cameron's blockbuster movie. And then there was Cunard, White Star's biggest rival. The Titanic disaster shifted public opinion. Cunard's liners were suddenly seen as safer and more reliable. Passengers voted with their wallets. In the years after the sinking, Cunard gained market share, attracting customers who no longer trusted White Star. One company's disaster became its rival's golden opportunity. Even the shipbuilders, Harland and Wolff, who built the Titanic, found a way to profit. Initially, they faced scrutiny, but the disaster created a massive demand for safer ships. New regulations required more lifeboats and stronger hulls. Harland and Wolff got contracts to refit existing vessels and design new ones, turning a scandal into an opportunity for growth. Safety, suddenly, was very profitable. This brings us to a bigger lesson. Disasters don't destroy money. They just move it around. Some lose, others win. This is one of the earliest examples of disaster capitalism. When the world is shocked and grieving, companies step in to provide solutions at a price. Life jacket makers, lifeboat producers, naval engineers all suddenly had booming markets. This pattern repeats itself throughout history. After Hurricane Katrina, construction firms profited from rebuilding. During the 2008 financial crisis, hedge funds scooped up cheap assets. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, while many businesses suffered, tech and pharma giants soared. In every crisis, the same question lingers. Who is quietly gaining? So, who profited? From the Titanic, insurers who consolidated their market, rivals who gained passengers, shipbuilders who won new contracts, and media empires that turned a shipwreck into one of the most valuable stories in history. White Star lost a ship. 1,500 people lost their lives. But capital never dies. It simply finds a new vessel. Understanding this pattern is the only way to protect yourself. History shows us that in every global crisis, money is never idle. It shifts. If you don't see where it's moving, you're the one being left behind. If this gave you a new perspective, hit that subscribe button. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.